Hey guys, this is Mr. V. I'm going to be doing a book review today. I'm going to be reviewing The Dark Tower, Book 4, Wizard and Glass. You can see that is the Dark Tower right there. So I'm going to be reviewing Dark Tower, Book 4. One thing you should know before I do my book review, I try to do a spoiler-free or just very minor spoilers in my book reviews, to where that's why if you see me looking down, I'm actually looking at different notes so I don't give any spoilers away. So I'll talk about this book right now. The one thing I loved about this book, I bought it on the Kindle. So I don't know if it goes in all books, but one thing that I really loved was that they gave a brief synopsis of the first three books. The reason I love that is because I am trying to read a lot of the books that link to the Dark Tower. So I'm going to be reading a total of 18 or 19 books, even though this is a 7-book series. But I'm reading all the stuff that linked to it, and that's why I love they gave a brief synopsis of the the first three books, because I had just read The Stand, which is Stephen King's longest book. And while I thought The Stand was amazing, it is a very long book, and it took me, I think, a month and a half, 2 months to finish The Stand. So giving a brief synopsis of the first three books was great. Now, as for book four, I loved that book four started right where book three left off. He's done that throughout the series, and that has been amazing. That it just starts right where the other one ends. Because I forgot to put it in my book three review, but I did not like the way book three ended. I thought it was kind of odd that they were just telling riddles to the train, blame the monorail, and I thought it was a little bit of a weak or weird ending. But they start right where it left off, to where I was very happy about that aspect, because then you can see what happens, and it just continues. Or there's not any plot holes in that regards. Um, and as I said in my book three review, there are little things throughout all of his books after book one that makes you think, like, is there some kind of link to other books, especially after reading some of his other books? But also, like, is there links to even previous chapters? Is he going to throw a twist in there? What will happen? And there are links to other books. I can say that. Throughout the series, you can just read it straight through, and the series will still be amazing. I've always heard that. I have not read the whole series, but I've always heard you can just read straight through the series. It will still be amazing. But I can see why people say you want to read some of his other books that are linked to it. And one of them that I always hear that you should read is The Stand. Because not only is The Stand an amazing book, but it links pretty heavily into book four. Book four, without spoiling The Stand, there's The Stand. You can go look it up. Is about a super flu that kills off 99% of the population, and they will. Their Roland's quartet is coming to certain cities right after the super flu hit, and they can see it in the newspapers, and they can see some of the things like the cars and all of that. But a big part of The Stand is in book four, is one of The Stand's major characters, Randall Flagg. And Randall Flagg, I assume, will be coming back throughout the series. I don't know yet, but he is introduced in book four, The Dark Tower. And I think it helped that I read The Stand to kind of know who Randall Flagg is. But again, The Dark Tower explains briefly who he is. But I know reading The Stand really helped me understand who is Randall Flagg, and that made that experience so much better. It's up to you guys if you want to read The Stand, but definitely read it before book four if you want the full experience. Now, to talk about the book is basically about younger Roland, and his current quartet of Eddie, Susanna, and Jake can tell something's like kind of bothering him, and Roland is going to explain a story from when he's younger, a younger Roland, and about someone he fell in love with, and he's just gonna talk about the whole story, and he's gonna show the people some of the stuff, or show his quartet, some of the stuff that happened, and that is basically the plot of the story. I'm not going to go too far in depth about it, but one thing I felt was it was very difficult for me to imagine a young Roland. When I read a book, I like picturing who the character is, and I think a lot of people do that. It's like movies, you like to see who the character is, but especially in a series, you want to picture who is this character, what does he look like, things like that. And there are even pictures online of what basically everyone in the Dark Tower looks like. I've seen pictures of Susanna, Eddie, Jake, Roland, and it's very difficult for me to imagine a young Roland, even though Roland was still a gunslinger at the time. He was only 14, 13 or 14. So it's difficult for me to picture, okay, what is Roland like? How does he act? You can tell, it goes throughout the book. It shows how he built who he was and why he acts the way he does. And, you can see that throughout the book. But given they kind of explained that in the first 3 books, this solidifies it even more about why he acts the way he acts, because they show the experiences Roland dealt with as a young kid, and when he was 14, when he was just starting as a gunslinger. But I just felt it was difficult for me to imagine it. It's, that's just a personal preference of mine, but I kept picturing an older Roland, the Roland we saw in the first 3 books. So that was one thing I did not like about the book. But another thing I felt was that, the book focuses on Roland's initial quartet with his friends Alan, and I think it's Cuthbert, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they have to go to a town, and basically they have to be undercover. They make up names, they make up a story so the townsmen will accept them. And they do that. And but I felt like while it's a good plot and it was good for a decent portion of the book, I felt they spent way too much time on a young Roland. That they could have cut some parts out, because there were times where I was bored. I was like, okay, come on, move the story along. And I've already reached book 4 of The Dark Tower, and it's like I've been a big fan of it. And I was like, okay, come on, move along. I was surprised reading The Dark Tower 4. I was bored at times. It wasn't a lot, but I was still surprised. And I know that there was it's meant to be a build-up. This is book 4 of 7, 7.5, you can say. So there's still meant to be a build-up, and you can see why Roland is the way he is, but I think they still could have cut some things out. Now, some of the great things about this book was I thought there was some amazing story connections, because Roland falls in love with this young girl, and they're both about the same age, and he falls in love with this girl. Her name is Susan, and there's some amazing underlying connections, because even though he falls in love with this girl in the town, Roland continues to lie about his name and why he's there, because he's undercover. So he continues to lie to this girl even though he is in love with her. And the reason I say there's amazing underlying connections is because even though he's in love, he's lying about his name, he's lying about the reason he's there. So it shows how much he will lie. And it makes you wonder when you're reading it, is he lying to his current quartet? Is he lying to Eddie, Susanna, Jake? Is he lying to them? And even in book 3, he had mentioned that, he had mentioned to his current quartet that that they meant more than the Dark Tower. But he mentally questioned himself, saying, maybe the Dark Tower still means more. So It's very interesting because it shows how far Roland was willing to do a lie. And this is a young Roland, but it still showed how much he was willing to do. And this is for someone that he loved. So, that's where I say there were some amazing underlying connections. And it makes you wonder, is he lying to his current team? So, that's a great. But one thing I felt was that I felt that a lot of the book was just average. There were some times that it was below average, sometimes it was above average. But as I said, they probably could have cut some of the younger Roland out and it would have been better. But the last like 20% or even 25% of the book I thought was great. And to me, I think that saved the book in my in my opinion. It saved the book for the ratings as well, as you'll hear in a sec. But I thought the last 20-25% of the book was great, and I thought it had a great ending. So that's the part that saved it, because again, a lot of it was just average to me. So I'm going to rate the book right now on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is an absolutely awful book. I give a 5 for the average and a 10 for amazing. Like, go get that book or read that book next. So, again, 5 is average. I would rate this book a 6.5, which is, you can see it's above average. Very few books make it to the 0 category, just as very few books make it to the 10 category. So, a rating of a 6.5 is still decent. I still rank that as a decent book, but it was the end it was the ending of the book, the last 20% that really saved it, or else I would have rated it just an average book. And it was the end that it was like, okay, wow, it was a great part. So again, 0 is awful, 5 is average, 10 is phenomenal. Very few reach 0, very few reach 10. But I would rate this a 6.5. And you guys can go back, check my previous reviews, because I think I rated book 2 like a 7 or 7.5, and book 3 an 8 to an 8.5. And book 1 was in like the 2 category, maybe a 3. It was, so, you can see I did not like book 1 much, but books 2 and 3 rated higher than this book, Wizard and Glass, Dark Tower 4. Which I know some people won't like, because a lot of people online loved the Dark Tower 4. I'm not saying it's a bad book, it's definitely above average, but I liked book 2 and 3 more. So if you have any comments, if you disagree, anything, please comment below. I hope you hit the subscribe button. Again, this is Mr. V. Thank you for watching the book review.